what I've learned from 7 years of journaling, and also a walkthrough of my personal method of journaling as of 2021. By the way, I keep a digital journal. There are slight differences between physical and digital, but they serve the same purpose. So in order for you to understand the lessons I learned and why my journal is the way it is, you have to know about why I started it. I started writing about my days in March of 2014. It was my first year of college and living in a dorm, so it was like a 24/7 hangout with friends. I didn't want to forget all the memories I shared with people I cared about, so I started this, a logbook of memories. It started off pretty small, just a few sentences about what I did, how I felt, and what my favorite moment of the day was. Question: do you often forget the details of moments and events you've spent with friends and family? I've talked to people who completely forget about shared memories we've had, and it makes me pretty sad. I learned that I'm the type of person who absolutely cherishes memories, and by writing them down, I'll never forget them. Journaling has also improved my memory recall, so even if I do miss something in the journal, I feel confident that I will remember it. Why does it even matter though? I believe by taking the time to look back at some of the most precious memories in your past, you can appreciate life a lot more. Of course, not every memory will be a happy one. Quite honestly, the time after college was and still is a big struggle. Breakups, rejection, family passing, loneliness, feeling lost, emptiness. Sometimes you feel like the only person you really have is yourself. But what if you don't like yourself? What if you feel like you can't trust yourself, that you aren't enough? I learned that your journal is the ultimate mediator between you and your heart. At some points, I didn't want to face myself. I didn't want to address what I was doing with my time or confront who I was being, because every time I write, I have no choice but to acknowledge what I'm doing, how I'm acting, and for the moment in that time, who I am. Your journal reflects who you are, and the more you decide to spend time with yourself, the more you have no choice but to accept yourself. You can't lie to yourself like you can with another person. How was your day? It was not good. I felt terrible. I feel disconnected from everyone. I feel like the people I care about the most don't seem to care about me. I feel like I'm running in circles right now with what I'm doing, not really improving with the things I want, and doing things that I'm not even sure I want to be doing. How can I change this? There have been periods of time where I just didn't want to face any of those questions and avoided my journal. Somehow, I always ended up coming back to it. I learned that the more that you can perceive your situation realistically, the easier it is to move forward with some optimism. Your journal can be your ultimate compass for change. I can't control the way other people behave, but I can control the way I choose to think about their responses. If I feel disconnected, perhaps it's because I'm the person who hasn't reached out quite enough. If I'm ignored, I can acknowledge that people are busy and may have missed my messages. If I feel like this thing that I'm doing is making me miserable, then let's find out how I can slowly stop doing it. Habits are hard to change, but if you have a guide, it makes it that much easier to change. And every time you reinforce those new thoughts and actions with the help of your journal, you start to slowly feel better. But things take time and you have to be consistent. Reflect and accept. The more you do this, the more you realize that you have the power to decide what you focus on. I honestly believe a lot of people don't reach what they want primarily because they forget about it and get taken by the distractions of life. I learned that your journal is as versatile as you are creative about using it. What you decide to write about and how complex you make your journal is up to you. Interestingly, the design and purpose of my digital journal drastically changed after college finished. I went dark mode and during some periods became really obsessive with keeping track of what I was doing at all hours of the day, as well as tracking how I was feeling during those hours. At this stage, let's actually get into how I designed my digital journal as of March 2021. The design is simple. I use a Google Doc, change the page color to black, and the text to blue. But I actually don't create the structure from scratch. I duplicate a template that I created for every new month. If you want to actually use the template, link will be in the description. And don't worry, it doesn't cost anything. Anyways, the template is simple. I have the month as the title of the document, and for each entry we have the date. Underneath that is a spot for the title, and yes, I do title my entries. Below that, a chart for things I did during the morning, noon, and night. I always fill out things I did during the day as I go. I basically just simplify things as best as I can. While I fill those things out, the thing on the right side that says N and RIT is energy and spirit. It's just an extra way to take note on how I was feeling. I go from a scale of 1 to 10 for energy, where 1 is dead tired, 5 is normal levels, and the only times I ever marked as 10s were when I performed at dance shows. For spirit, it's just a fancy word for how clear-headed I was. So if I was distracted by a lot of things and didn't get stuff done, I'd write something like F. If I'm generally okay to good, I write T or a dash. And if I'm feeling super focused, I write S. I know since the morning, noon, and night are big chunks of time, this might not always reflect the entire time period. As shown before, I used to do this almost every hour, but it got to be a bit too much to consistently keep track of, so I'm settling for a cleaner look, but less accurate on the energy and spirit tracker, which is totally fine with me since these days they stay very consistent anyways. Next, I fill in my entry, usually describing notable moments from the day, as well as important thoughts or feelings I had in the day. After that, I write about the specific prompts, like the progress I made on a project or a piano piece, how my calisthenics training went, and so on. I usually write about how I think I can improve if things didn't go well for that specific element, and then a spot for writing about something I'm grateful for during that day. As a cherry on top, I place stars next to the date. I use a 0 to 8 star system, where 0 is a day I don't necessarily care to review again, 1 is just a good feeling day, 4 being an important day, 8 being one of the best days of my life. So it's a very subjective to the feeling of that day type of system. Regardless, it works well for me when I want to review the entire document at the end of the month. It's really up to you if you want to have the same system as I do. I suggest not worrying too much about the design. It really does change every few months or so for me. Just be attentive to what your needs are at the moment, and the design of your journal will mold to those needs. Back then, the only thing I had was the date, title, and entry. If you're just starting out, that actually might be a better place to start at. I do think eventually, as you get more used to this, it's a lot easier to be consistent with adding a lot more things. But if you do want to just jump to the year 7 version of my journal, here's how I quickly change certain elements. Let's say you don't play piano. To change it, you can just use the Find and Replace function in the Edit section of the menu on Google Docs. Type in what you want to replace. For my template, that would be TT, and then fill it in with the actual month. You can do the same thing for piano or any of the other repeating text elements as well. Also, there's no way that I know of to change all the tables at once, so if you want to alter them by deleting a row or something, you're gonna have to do that for each one. Once you have everything changed, the document is ready for use. However, I think having your journal set up is the easy part. The hardest part is actually keeping up with it. In my 6th year of journaling, I learned that the best way to consistently write is to always keep it open as a tab on my laptop. Something noteworthy is that in the first year of journaling, I started off writing in intervals of 1 week or 2 weeks. What I did was write a sentence or title each day to remember what to write about for those days at the end of the week. Eventually, I wrote daily, but I occasionally do miss a few days and make up for them on later days. As of 2021, I've been extremely consistent about writing in it every day or two. Again, it's up to you how frequent you want to write. The more frequent, the easier it is to write about the details. The less frequent, the more you practice your memory recall. Just remember, no matter how crappy a day is, there's always something to write about. An interesting moment, a fun conversation, something you want to vent about, or just what you're thinking at the moment. If for whatever reason you think there's absolutely nothing you can write about, then my advice to you is to try to make something noteworthy happen for that day. After writing in my journal for 7 years now, I believe the greatest lesson I learned is that you are not the person you were yesterday. I look at yesterday's entry and an entry from 2014, and I see two completely different people. What I did yesterday, what I've done for years, I can choose to move in a different direction right now. I can choose to give more than I did yesterday. I've learned that starting every new day, you get to shape what your entry for today is going to be. Those were the various lessons I learned throughout my 7 years of journaling and how I personally journal as of 2021. I hope this video was able to help motivate you to try out using a journal or even inspire you to think of new ways to structure your journal if you already use one. Don't forget, you can access my journal template on my website and you don't have to pay anything for it. My only request though is that if you found the video or template useful, consider subscribing and liking the video. It really does help, so thank you. Also, feel free to ask me any questions in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. It's been a while since I uploaded a video, but I do plan on getting back into things from here. So thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.